Well, I'm not sure it's important to study body temperature except to understand why it is that some animals use more energy than do other animals. And one of the things you have to be sure of if an animal has a really low rate of heat production, what its body temperature is. Because either it can be a very efficient animal and have a high body temperature with a low rate of heat production, or it can be permitting its body temperature to fall down and go into either hibernation or torpor or something else like that. So you've got to know what the body temperature is. I don't think the body temperature is as important as metabolic rate, that is how much heat the animal produces, because that heat comes from the food they use. And so you really want to know how dependent are they on their food resources. Well, the single most important factor is body size. Big animals use more energy than do small animals. But if you look at body size alone, it doesn't explain all of the energy use by animals. And in a sense, there's a lot of what you might refer to as residual variation. That is, at any body size, some animals have a much higher metabolic rate and others have a lower metabolic rate at the same body size. And then the question is, okay, once you've determined that body size is the most important factor, then the question is, what's responsible for the rest of the variation? And I've been looking at this in both mammals and birds. And there's a whole bunch of factors that are important in setting this, influencing metabolic rate, besides body size. They include such things as food habits. If they feed on certain foods, they have high metabolic rates. If they feed on other foods, they have low metabolic rates. It depends what the climate they live in. If they live in a temperate or a polar climate, they have a higher metabolic rate than if they live in the tropics. It depends on whether they live in the mountains or the lowlands. If they live in the mountains, they have a higher metabolic rate than if they live in the lowlands. If they live on a continent, they have a higher metabolic rate than if they live on small islands. So all of these things go into influencing the metabolic rate. Well, islands are very important because they're fairly simple systems. I mean, it's one thing to take a look at Europe or North America when you have hundreds of species of animals and you try to figure out what's going on. That's awfully complicated. But if you go to a small island especially, and maybe there is one species of bat and maybe 10 species of birds, it's a much easier system to analyze. And then it turns out that islands permit animals to do very peculiar things. For example, many birds become flightless on islands. And they become flightless because they don't have to remain flighted, because one of the factors in continents that keeps birds flying are predators. Cats, dogs, weasels, all kinds of animals are ready to eat them on a continent. And on an island, there usually are no predators or very few predators, so they can be very relaxed about what they do. So islands are often very strange environments from a continental viewpoint. I guess a continent from an island viewpoint is a very peculiar place. But in any case, islands are very interesting because they are simple and they permit animals to do things that they can't do on big continents because life is too complicated on a big island.